Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today we're going to be taking a look and seeing how much my $35,000 investing portfolio paid me out over this last month. So we're going to hop over here on the computer so you can kind of follow along in real time. Now, what we like to do here is kind of go over how the portfolio is doing first, and then we'll kind of break down, what companies paid us and how much they paid us, plus what the total is. And also I'll maybe show you guys how much I made so far this year in total with dividends from this main portfolio and maybe all my portfolios together. So it's always kind of fun looking at these numbers individually, but then as a whole, it kind of really gives you some perspective of how, impactful this could be earning these dividends. Now, for those that maybe have been following along for a while, I'm not as big on the focus of dividends as I used to be, but that doesn't mean I don't care about them. I actually care about them just as much now as I did before, but the yield is what I don't care about as much. And I'll show you guys here in a little bit if I can recall, or if I can remember at least, to kind of go over what my dividend yield is right now, and then also what my yield on cost is, because that's pretty important as well too, and we'll kind of break that down a little bit. You can see here that the portfolio is sitting at $35,000. So this is pretty much up there in the peak of how we're doing. Our last day wasn't so great, so we went down just a little bit. And then let's go and see what the last week has been. So the last week has been pretty good. We're actually up $650, which is really, really nice gains there. If we look at the last month, we're still down about $735. If we go to the quarter, we're still up $2,000. So we're still up $2,000. You can see here, earned dividends. We also earned $100 in this last month, which is fantastic. And then if we look at the year, we're up almost still $5,000 with almost $352 in earned dividends, which is really fantastic. And if we go to our all-time, we're up $5,472 with $389 in earned dividends. And as most people know, you can see here we invested $100 into this account, got started, and started building up our portfolio. So let's go ahead and take a look and see the different companies that paid us out this last little time here, and kind of give this a really cool breakdown. Like I mentioned too, we're also going to go over the yield for this portfolio as well too. So actually, let me do that first, because if I don't, I might forget it. So this is my portfolio. You can see it's a little behind from where we currently are. So I don't want to be sitting here updating it right now because I don't have to log in. So my current dividend yield on my M1 Finance portfolio, which is the platform, by the way, I'm using, this is M1 Finance. If you're interested in using them as well too, I will link them up in the show notes down below. You do get a nice little bonus for going through my link. It helps support out the channel. Plus, if you want to set up your account to look something like mine does, where I have like these cool slices and I got this nice pie and everything going, I'll also have a link for a free training tools. So if you can, go through that, you can learn everything to set up your account and you are good to go. I'll have all that stuff linked down below so you guys can check that out. But anyways, the dividend yield right over here. So my yield on this is 1.25. We talk about it all the time. Most people talk about 4% rule. They want to do 4%. That's kind of what their goal is. And I don't care about the 4% right now because I'm not trying to earn these dividends to, live off of. I'm actually trying to focus in about 15 years to live off these dividends. So right now, my yield on cost for my portfolio is actually 1.42. So what that means is, in case you're not too familiar with this, is if someone were to buy into my portfolio, with $34,159 today, their yield would be 1.25%. But because I have owned this portfolio for some time, and some of the companies I have increased their dividend yields year over year or whatever the case, my yield on cost is actually much better at 1.42% than it was if I were to buy in today because of those increases. So like, Apple announces like a 7% dividend increase, or Home Depot announces a 10% increase. That is essentially me making more money without having to invest more into these companies. And that's a really, really powerful thing. So when we kind of go over this stuff, that's what I'm looking at, is this yield on cost. Now, again, it's pretty low. It's not even, close to 2% just yet, but over time, my goal is to get that close to 4% by the time I need this money or want this money, which is in about 15 years, give or take. You can see the annual income projected for this is about $426, which is pretty good. Now, for a lot of people, again, when you're looking at $35,000 and you look at, the 4% rule, if we bring up this calculator. So if we do this, so 34,159. So if we do the 4% rule per year, you should be looking at $1,300 divided by 4. about $341 per quarter, is what you would be kind of looking at depending on like what you're trying to accomplish. But again, for us, because we're trying to do it long term, I'm investing in companies that have a lot more growth than they do the dividends. And so that's why my portfolio is way lower than somebody who is wanting that 4% now. Now, I do understand too, because there's people who are like, well, if I'm doing the 4%, I get that money now and I reinvest it that I would not have otherwise had to be able to continue to own more shares that earns more dividends. And that's a great method to go as well too. It's fantastic. I just prefer the method where I'm having more into companies like Apple. I have Airbnb, which doesn't pay a dividend yet, but could do it in the future. I have companies like Amazon, who also doesn't do that. Costco pays a very low dividend, but their yield growth every single year is phenomenal. We got like Facebook and Google also don't do that. We got companies like Home Depot who actually pay a pretty good dividend right now. So their dividend yield is about 2%. Yeah, dividend yield is about 2%. And my yield on cost is actually 2.4% because they've increased their dividend pretty substantially since I started owning them. So that's really cool to see something along those lines. And hopefully as I build a larger portfolio and a larger holding, I will get those kind of things. Now, also too, because I do have people asking me about like my portfolios and stuff like that too. Anybody that becomes a member with this channel as well too, what I'm going to be doing is pretty much like once a month, I will have an update of my full portfolio. So this is right now just my M1, but I have a full summary so you can see, all the companies like Apple and how many shares I actually own of them. You can see my average cost, pretty much everything you see here. You'll get up to date every single month. And then I also will be posting in the community tabs for members where I actually show people my trades. So every single time I do a trade, people will get to see that. So if you're kind of curious about that, you can definitely join in and kind of see things happening in real time. Hopefully maybe that helps you out, or maybe you're just kind of curious to see how other people's portfolios are growing over time. So let's take a look and see which companies paid us out. And then we'll kind of look at all of those totals and everything too. So we're back in M1 Finance. Let's go ahead and break this down to just dividends only. And let's clear that out there. So what we're going to do is kind of start from the bottom here. Make sure everything is on screen. Okay, so we got April 1st right over here. We got paid out from ADP. Actually, no, that's April 1st. Hold on. We're doing May. Okay, there we go. So we had no companies from April 30th all the way until May 13th. So that was a pretty big gap right there for us. Now, obviously, it's just depending on the companies that we own. So not every company is going to be, paying out the same days or same, time frames. So unfortunately for us, there is a pretty large gap. And you can see in April, we only had 2 companies that paid us out. So, that's another downside is when you have companies that don't pay out dividends or don't have a lot of companies entirely, your amount of dividends you're getting are not going to be, as often. And that's fine. But my goal is to try to get big chunks of them. Like you can see here. So April, I keep saying April, but May 13th, right over here, we got paid out from Apple, which has a total of $7.32. So that's a pretty large chunk of money right there. I remember when we were first going with Apple, it was pretty small. So let me actually see here so you guys can kind of get an idea. So, oh, perfect. It lined up almost exact. So February 13th, 2020 was actually the first time I got paid out from an Apple dividend. You can see here that was a total of 9 cents. So, over time as I kept building up, that's how I got to a point where now on May 13th, so yeah, May 13th, we got paid $7.32. Even the quarter before that, on February 11th, so a year after I got my first dividend, it jumped all the way to $3.60 from 9 cents. So, I like seeing these numbers grow and build up over time because I think that's going to be really, really cool. Especially as, these companies keep increasing their dividend yields, because every time they increase their dividend yields, and I own so many shares of these companies, even small increments of like 8% or 9% that seem insignificant because it might be, a nickel increase. That nickel increase for, 100 shares can actually yield me some really good increases. Let's see here. So May 14th, we actually got paid out 3 times on the 14th. So the first one was from AbbVie, also $7.85. So another really good chunk of money from one company. And then we got paid out from Ally for $4.65. Not too bad. Costco right over here, we got paid out $2.29, which is not bad considering that their yield is so small. I think, let's see what their yield is right now. So for Costco, I own about 2.94 shares their yield currently, so if you bought in as of this recording, is 0.75. So it's pretty abysmal. Mine is only 0.83% yield. So it's a little bit better than buying in today, but not that much better. Not even over 1% just yet. But that's why, seeing $2.29, from a dividend payout is a decent chunk of money, but hopefully with increases over time, that'll grow even more substantially. So on May 17th, we got paid out from Texas Instrument for $2.69. And then on the 28th, we got paid out from Starbucks for a total of $3.27. Now, I have a dividend tracker that I put together. Let me make sure it's all nice on screen. I'll zoom out so you guys can see the different things that are going on the screen here, but I'll zoom in so you guys can read this a little easier. So for May, we earned a total of $28.07 in income from the dividends on M1 Finance. Now I have other portfolios that if I earn income, I have different sheets that I can go through on here, which also too, by the way, if you want this, I'll also have that in the show notes down below, entirely free for you. It's just something I put together. You'll get an email once you sign up, and then you'll be able to download this or even just have it on your Google Drive or Google Slides or something like that. I can't remember right now. Oh, Sheets, Google Sheets is what you'll have it on. So $28.07. So the way I like to kind of compare a couple different things is one, let's go look at a year ago. So 1 year ago right now, so May of 2020, we earned a total of $7.52. So pretty substantial increase right there. It's 3 times pretty much. And then if we go even 1 year beyond that, we earned 0 cents that month. So obviously a huge increase from that time period. But what I also like to do is look at the same month in the quarter prior. So this was the mid-month of last quarter, or of this quarter. So if we look in February of 2021, we actually made more money in dividends in February of 2021 than in May of 2021. Now, usually as a dividend investor, ideally those quarters should always be increasing little by little. You shouldn't compare like March to May because those are different time periods. So different companies are paying out, where ideally the companies paying out in May are the same companies paying out in February. So the reason for the drop here, and it was also a pretty big drop from January and April, is because I ended up selling out of a couple of different companies that do pay out dividends, and I ended up investing in some of the companies that don't pay as much in dividends, like lower yields or even no dividend yield right now, because I felt like I wanted to condense my portfolio a little bit more, and then hopefully over time those companies are paying out dividends a little bit better long term. So we'll see how that goes, and or if the company isn't paying dividends, that they will eventually do it, because Apple at one point didn't pay out dividends for a long time, and then they started to. So if you bought back then, not only did you have some great growth, now you have an amazing dividend yield, and we talked about that in previous videos, and it's really impactful to see that kind of stuff. So I kind of like paying attention to that and seeing how it grows. So we'll see. And if you are going to become a member here on the channel, you'll see if I do end up selling, or just my buys for those weeks, so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm trying to accomplish with this portfolio, because it's going to change over time. It's not going to be exact. I was really dividend focused early on, and then I kind of shifted a little bit to like more of a dividend growth type of investor. I think just seeing those dividend yields increasing from these companies that are maybe paying lower yields now, but when you add it up, pay better yields long term. I'll show you here as an example. So if we go to seekingalpha.com, I always like to bring up Home Depot. It's one of my favorite stocks currently. So if we go to their dividend scorecards and then dividend yield right over here. So I always like to show this. So right now their yield's about 2%, which is pretty solid. But with all of their increases, if you bought it 5 years ago, your yield on cost would actually be 5%. Pretending like you didn't buy any more within that 5-year period. So let's say 5 years ago you put in, let's say $10,000, your yield would be 5% right now, which is way better than 4%, and that's only in a 5-year time period. If you go 10 years, you're looking closer to 18 to 20%. Like, that's mind-blowing to me, to get 20% on your money, having held a company's stock for that long and having those dividend increases, where a lot of the companies that do have a 4% yield tend to have lower increases every year because different reasons. A lot of them are slower growth companies, so they're not bringing in as much money year over year, so they can't increase it that much more, where Home Depot has a lot more leverage in that department to be able to increase year over year. So if Home Depot obviously history doesn't mean it's going to repeat itself right here, but if in the next 10 years they do the same thing right here, buying into Home Depot today is going to yield me really, really good results, 5-10 years from now. And that's when I care about getting those dividends. So just in case you were kind of curious about that, let me make sure this thing doesn't time out. And then let's go back to right over here. So if we look over here, back on this spreadsheet, so like we talked about, so we didn't do as much in February, or we didn't do as much as we did in February, and that's okay. But I believe after this, we should start kind of getting back to normal of beating out what we did in the prior time period in the last quarter. So if we look in March of 2021, we did a total of $63.93. So for June, which will be next month, I don't think we're going to hit that number either. I think we're going to be a little underneath that. But then starting in the third quarter of this year, so July through September, we should start getting closer to those original numbers and then start passing them again. And again, that's because we sold off companies that were paying out good yields, but maybe weren't having as good growth. So, long term, I think that's going to be a better fit for our style and our investing that we're doing here with the channel. And, we'll see how that plays out long term. If you're following along and, subscribed, you guys will definitely get updates on how that's all going. So if I scroll down here, you can see here. So in Q1, we made a total of $122.01. And then we kind of covered it there. Q2 so far, we still got one more full quarter to go. We're at $47.03. So we're pretty behind on where we are from Q1. But again, with all the sell-offs, we'll see that change over time. But if we look at Q2 from 2020, we were at $23.88 for all 3 months, where we already doubled what we did in 2020, and we still have one more full month of this quarter to go to be able to add up to that, which is pretty awesome in my book. I'm excited to see how that continues to grow. And you can see with M1 Finance year to date, we're at $169.04 already, where last year in total with all 4 quarters, we were at $184.01. So we for sure are going to blow out of the water what we brought in last year as a total. So let me see if I can go ahead and zoom out here for you guys so you can see. So on this, is it zooming out? Perfect. So let me make sure you guys can see this here on the computer screen. I'll zoom up a little bit here. So here I have a couple different things that are going on. What are we at? Month 5. So let me change this up really quick. So month 5. So this kind of shows you like our dividends on a monthly basis compared month over month. We got quarters right over here on the right hand side, so we can see how we're doing per quarter. Annually we can see, and then I made this chart. This is a little bit more of a manual thing I have to do. So this is the monthly average that I made. I had to change that because it's obviously 2021 now. But so the monthly average for 2021 has been about $33.81. Obviously, a lot of people's goal is to getting to $100 first and then $1,000 a month. Like those are going to be really good goals. A lot of people kind of look on a quarterly basis because, the big companies pay out quarterly. But I just like to kind of break this down. So that's why I had to change this from a 4 to a 5, because we've gone through 5 months so far. And that's how much we brought in, which was the 169.04, which then again breaks down to 33.81 for the overall month. And then overall with total dividends that we brought in for M1 Finance is $361.57. Now this is a little different than what we actually have over here on the earned income or earned dividends on M1 Finance. Oops. Click that back. And that's only because these also account for any of the stocks that have paid or have gone past their the ex-dividend date and the hold date, but haven't officially paid out yet. So that happens with companies where, let me go over here just so you guys can see. So if in case you're using this platform, you'll also understand. So like the record date right over here for Home Depot is June 3rd. So if I hold Home Depot by June 3rd, M1 Finance will calculate that and put it into my earnings because I will have gotten paid out even if I sold the company. And then the actual payout date is the 17th. So from the 3rd to the 17th, it'll actually already show that I've earned that money because, again, regardless of actually selling the stock or not, I'm going to earn those dividends, which is kind of cool. I've actually done that before where I've held a company and ended up selling them after the hold date, so that way I still got paid out those dividends and didn't miss out because maybe I didn't want to hold them anymore, but I still wanted to earn the dividend if the date was close enough. And then one thing I wanted to show you as well too here. So on my spreadsheet, if I switch it over, And I do now realize that like my screen was kind of covered up on the other stuff. So this is my total dividends right over here. I'll kind of just explain it. So this is pretty much my Vanguard and my M1 together. Vanguard doesn't pay out as often, so I don't talk about them too much here on the channel, but usually once a quarter I'll kind of jump in. You can see here, so far for the year, we've actually earned a total between both of these accounts, which my Vanguard is a retirement account, so it's an IRA. That one has earned a total of $366.22 between these two platforms. And I got to change this up to 5. And you can see here, so for the average right now, we're earning $73.24 between those two accounts. And if I could slide down just a little under, we've earned almost $2,000 between these accounts. And as far as total dollar amount, we had to take out Robinhood from this total here, but we are just under, I think, 108,000 between the Vanguard and the M1 Finance portfolio, minusing the Robinhood, because the Robinhood portfolio is like 99.99% all growth stuff, and it's kind of riskier stuff, so we're not focused on that when it comes to the dividend side of things. But yeah, between those ones, that's how much dividends we've earned so far for the year, which is not so bad. Obviously, the yield is actually better when I add in Vanguard, because my Vanguard is doing a little bit better long term, because I've owned that one for quite a bit longer. You can see the dividend yield right now is 0.91%. So if you were to put in $73,000 into the same Vanguard account that I have, your yield would be 0.91. But because I've owned it for years, my yield is actually 1.42. So even though it's on par with M1 Finance, from where I got into where it is now, that's a massive increase right there. That's a 0.5% increase pretty much going in and getting those dividend yields. So anytime I'm getting paid out from my funds, like, it is significantly better than it was when I first started investing into this fund as well. So that's personally what I like to do, is pay attention to these things, because then it gets me excited and helping me grow into the portfolio, and just kind of going through that motion of, getting the dividends, reinvesting them, because reinvesting is really important. You guys probably know that. But then just kind of seeing where I am, if I'm on track with where I want to be, try to earning, my goal would be $5,000 to $10,000 a month by the time I want this money in about 15 years. So we'll see if we can hit that goal. And again, I will keep sharing that with you. If you want any of the resources that I talked about here today on the channel, I'll have it down in the show notes down below, so you guys can check those out. We got M1 Finance, we got the free tools, and the free training as well too, if you guys want to use that. But I also want you to keep on watching more on the channel, so you can see some of my other portfolio updates that I've done with anything else I have going on here. So check out my video that's going to pop up somewhere here on the screen, and you are going to be good to go to watch the next video. My name is Dennis, and I will see you in that next video.